probably know the story. Television made its debut in tropical Africa through Nigeria in 1959 via the then Western Nigeria Television in IBADAN. And since then, television has been a prime source of information, education, and entertainment for people of all ages and classes. Well, in order to renew the commitment of governments, organizations, and individuals to support the development of broadcast media in providing unbiased information, the United Nations General Assembly in 1996 proclaimed November 21st as World Television Day. So, this edition of Nigeria Today will be looking at the increasing impact of television as a link between democracy, social, political, and economic development. Welcome to the program. My name is Kande Daniel. Join me now to welcome for our discussion on television beyond the box. Two gentlemen, Professor Tahir Mamman, SAN, Vice Chancellor of Bayes University, is also a former Director General of Nigeria Law School. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
And Mr. Tunde Aino is Chief Operating Officer, Star Times Nigeria. Glad to have you on set, Mr. Aino.
Thank you.
Good. We are obviously on television, talking television. Let's take it from this angle. Prof, given the current state of media conversion, you know, all that we know is happening now, is it safe for us to even make the statement that television has gone beyond the box?
Well, it depends on the box you are talking about. You mentioned earlier on the purposes of television and media in general, which is entertainment, education, and information. These goals remain the same. Probably what has changed is probably the form and then the category of people who are making use of it. Mm-hmm. That's probably what has changed, because the question I always ask is the content. What information are you giving out? What kind of education are we dishing out to society? And what type of entertainment? And then the context within which we deliver all these values and information. Now, in a third world setting like our own, we've tended to run into the problem of really following the pattern of what is happening elsewhere, whereas our goals are completely different, and what we need to project are different, even though in a very generic sense you have all these overarching, purposes of the media. And now we have added to that the issues of consumerism and what we're supposed to be enlightening the society on. So these are key issues. If you watch television programs, for instance, from China, okay, you'll find that the focus is largely different. With the same goals, the same objects that we talked about, but the focus will be different, which is about projecting the culture of China, their powers, their achievements, at various stages of their development, in contradistinction to if you watch Western media, televisions, and then the kind of thing that you will be bombarded with are different, even though all these goals are the same. But you'll find a different kind of information, different method of conveying the information, coming forward. And if you, for instance, take the Western world, and their media, you will find most of the information coming out to the rest of the world is through entertainment, but projecting what we may call soft power, the soft power of Western civilization. So what are we projecting? What values are we actually projecting through our media? And so this is really the key question that we should be asking ourselves.
Yes, it is very important. It's very important because television largely is about content, what people see, what they hear. Now, Mr. Aino, taking a look at the circumstances we find ourselves in today, in the new age, and Prof's inference concerning our peculiar circumstances and our values, would you say television in Nigeria, in Africa, has gone out of the box? And what should we be doing concerning content?
Of course, TV has gone out of the box. Traditionally, people, families gather around a box at home to watch TV. But over the years, there have been more ways of watching TV. As you know, you can watch TV on your phone or on your computer, on the go, wherever. So, the TV, the way people watch TV has evolved over the years, even though the information you get hasn't really changed much. The only problem is that because TV has gone beyond the box, because TV is now ubiquitous, yes, you can watch anywhere, anytime. There's this problem of the kind of information you get, the kind of entertainment you get, if control, that is, if it is suitable for all audiences. News, for example, if you get news from a mainstream media, you can just go to sleep that more or less it's accurate to
updated
to a large extent. But these days, with all the various ways that people can watch TV, there are opportunities for people to cause a lot of mischief, spread all sorts of information, all sorts of misinformation. So television has gone out of the box, and it has brought about so many issues, because you could say TV was more of positive information before, but now with these new opportunities, there are opportunities for people getting positive information, and also people using television for mischief.
Right, okay, staying with you, Mr. Aino, would you say it's heavier on the positives than on the negatives, this development we have about television now being so diversified in different forms, online TV, you've mentioned some of them, pay TV, and so on and so forth. What would you say are the advantages? Is it all wrong?
The advantage is that, with the way it is now, more people have more opportunities to watch TV. With pay TV, with DTT coming on board, people can have, we can have much more choice in terms of programming, whether it's news or entertainment or whatever. So these are advantages that come with the recent developments in TV broadcasting. Of course, the negative aspect is also there, and that is where, in a democracy like ours, the government has to be really careful about regulation in terms of
I was going to ask him that question, but let's hear you out.
Yeah, regulation in terms of what people can post, and to hold people accountable for what they post. Because now, the way it is now, it's only the mainstream media that are licensed, so they're the only ones that can be held accountable. But with the way television is now, everybody has opportunity to post what they like, and not everybody can be held accountable. So that's a big question.
So, Prof. Maman, how do you think, is it possible to regulate and control television gone beyond the box?
Well, for me, the key question actually whether it is desirable. Because in a very free society, to a large extent, regulation should be more of self-regulation actually by the operators of the system. Government intervention, regulatory bodies intervention tend to be ineffective, generally speaking, especially when we are dealing with media, and then in particular now with digital media and internet. Government intervention is a very, very difficult exercise, if at all at some point it is desirable. Because right from one's bedroom you can just broadcast so much material, especially this online media which we have now. So, and with the kind of technology we have, the regulatory bodies do have, it becomes almost impossible to do that. And then of course we also are aware that there are also some basic laws which apply to defamation, libel, where people who get injured can fall back to all these mechanisms of suit raised. But they are also very difficult when you are dealing with mass media. And if you look at what has been happening of recent, in particular between 2014 2015, during the rough days of politics, and even now we are inching into that, where so much language is being intemperate languages by the politicians, and then it becomes difficult to draw the line. Where do you actually draw the line when people are in the studio and making remarks and that sort of thing?
Yes, but when we're talking about drawing the line, staying with you, Prof, is it possible to do anything, you know, taking the Nigerian Television Authority as an example? The authority leads in terms of insisting on percentages of local content, which we believe is healthier for the people, for the purpose of our values and our own circumstances and aspirations as a people. Now, still talking about content, how do you think we can get more dynamic, more effective content, at least for the traditional television?
Well, government ownership of television obviously carries with it some baggage that the government would like to have, like to see certain things coming out of it, and would want to not to see certain things coming out of the media. But as I said at the beginning, the most important regulation is the people who are operating and understand their terrain, you know, understand the needs of their society, and then project really the civilization and the cultures of the society. And I believe this essentially will begin to come from the universities, the educational institutions where those who run programs are trained, and then the subsequent forms of training which they are supposed to have. Because it's not just about, okay, culture. When we talk about culture, a lot of times we talk about culture, all we see on television is dance. That's our understanding of culture. That's not what culture is all about. Culture, all these dances are just projection of certain ceremony tied to certain values. Okay, and so our people need to understand when we talk about entertainment, you know, entertainment within what context? What are we actually showing the rest of the world? Is it just simply to copy what other people are doing and then put up something like all these dances and we say culture? That's not what culture is all about. I guess
the answer to that would be no. We could be more original.
Exactly.
I know, Mr. Aino is itching to add something to this comment. I'll give you the opportunity in a short while when we come back from this break. As we all know, virtually everybody watches television. So we will go on the streets now to hear the opinion of the ordinary people on the streets concerning television getting out of the box or going beyond the box. And we'll come back after this.
Televisions play a very important role in reorientation of people to live right, to do what is good and expected of them. And then it also helps to create awareness of good citizenry and doing the right thing.
I'd say one of the mediums that man has created, scientists have come up with, that is really revolutionary. It is still revolutionary because it's the use of TV, the use of TV is expanding as I speak.
Our television play a vital role in our society because the awareness by the television bring a lot of peace in the nation, a lot of progress in the economy and other things.
I think it helps to spread information all over the world. Yeah.
Social media on its own plays its own, but a lot of fake news out there on social media. And most times social media journalists put out fake news for us to see, but with the professionalism of the journalists on television, we at times know what is true and all of that.
It's still a form of information transmission. It's still a form of, it still gives an edge over the social media to an extent. NTA is like something you're part of, sincerely speaking. NTA is something you're part of because we grew up watching NTA. And there are certain things NTA does, or you see on NTA, that you don't get to see elsewhere. It's like some local news, to be sincere, some local news. I think NTA carries it more than any other TV station.
The program is Nigeria Today, and on World Television Day we are discussing television beyond the box. Professor Chahir and Mr. Tunde, I know, are still here, and we go straight into the second part of our discussion. Now, Mr. I know you are deeply involved in the digitization process, and we're right inside the era. Relating that to content, how do you think we can leverage on digitization to positively change the content that we dish out?
The current DSO, digital switchover, gives opportunity for many more people to set up new channels, new specialized channels. Before DSO, the frequency spectrum was exhausted. So even if you wanted to have a channel, you couldn't. But with DSO, we can have lots of local channels that are thematic. Thematic could be in terms of the type of content or the language. In Star Times, what we have found out in the last 4 years, because we have an audience rating system in 4 cities in Nigeria, is that the local channels are actually more popular than the foreign channels. Most things local are now more popular with the audience.
How do you gauge that, if I may ask?
Oh, of course, it's scientific. We have an audience rating system that tells you who's watching what at what time. Mm-hmm. At the end of the month, you have your ratings. You know which channel is number 1, number 2, number 3. You know which programs people watch more than others. So that's how we arrived at this conclusion that people watch more local now than they used to.
That's heartwarming.
Yes. In Lagos, for example, the top 2 channels in the last 4 years, they are local Yoruba language channels. You know, so things are changing. We are even when you talk about music and movies as well. People watch more of the local content now, especially as the quality has increased. The reason why people were not watching before was because the quality was so bad. So they rather watch the foreign ones that are better quality. But recently the quality has gone up, and you know, people are now watching more local content. So, and the digital switchover has given opportunities for much more content makers to make much more local content.
Right. Okay, before I ask Prof another question, Mr. Aino, let me hear you on this. Some people think that the transition from analog to digital television is an uphill task for us right now. Tell us, how is it going?
The transition from analog to digital has lots of challenges. I wouldn't say it is moving as fast as it should. because smaller countries achieved it 3 years ago, and we're still struggling with it. So it's not been easy. But one of the reasons is because of the size of this country, the size and complexity of Nigeria. You know, and of course, the policies too have not been what they should be in the last 3 or 4 years. So, you know, it's not been easy. And
what do you want to change in the policy?
That's a very wide topic. But for you to achieve the transition from analog to digital, you must ensure that majority of the population have access to the devices to receive digital TV. As you know, if you have an analog TV, you need a decoder to watch digital TV. So how do you ensure that everybody gets the decoder? You know the economic situation of the country. In some countries, governments were subsidizing. But of course, you know, with our current situation, that is almost impossible. So there are so many issues. Then even the signal distributors, you are supposed to have digital signals in 95% of the territory of the country before you can switch off. And right now we are just in about 6 or 7 states. So it is still a long way to go. And it's really, really challenging. It's not something we can discuss here, but there's a lot to be done.
Okay, Prof. Mamman, let's turn our attention a bit to the power of television, the influence that television could have, you know, on people. No doubt, it's great and large. I would like to hear from you some suggestions as how practitioners can better direct these powers, you know, that they have for setting agenda in and out of political eras.
Certainly, the power of the media in any country is very enormous. Enormous. And that is why it is called, actually, it's a soft power. It's a device through which people can get influenced unknowingly, unconsciously, without actually knowing that that something is going on. Now, that presents a kind of opportunity actually for the media by, you know, linking up with the needs of the community, as he just mentioned. It's very heartwarming to know that local channels that are broadcasting local programs are actually more popular than the foreign ones. So that gives a great opportunity for providers and the media people to cash in on that opportunity. And if you look at our democracy, for instance, as an example, much of the information we're getting now is through the media. Okay, and even some of the control mechanism, you know, people who watch debates, discussions through the media. And I remember, as I've always said, even in the late 60s when we were quite young. Yeah, when they had all those cinema vans around the country. It was not even a television broadcast, but they had all those.
There's actually a lot of memory, you know, wrapped around television of those days.
Yes.
You know, but we're running out of time and we just have to close.
Yeah, so that's even that which was actually within the box itself.
Yes,
now that it is out of the box, you now have this huge opportunity.
There is quite a lot. But I think we have gotten quite some useful insights from you two gentlemen. Time is up, and that's it on this edition of Nigeria Today. But allow me to acknowledge and recognize and thank properly my guests, Professor Tahir Mamman, Vice Chancellor, Bayes University, Abuja, is also former Director General, Nigeria Law School. Thank you so much for coming on the program. And our very own Mr. Tunde Aido, Chief Operating Officer, Star Times Nigeria. It's been great having you on set to talk about television. Thank you for coming. And we thank you too for your time and for choosing NTA, Mother of Television in Africa. Remember, you can watch this or any other edition of Nigeria Today online at youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. My name is Kande Daniel. Bye-bye. Okay, let the producer will communicate from that because it's supposed to have been live.